All right, welcome back, YouTubers. This is Inland Northwest Native News. I'm your host, Jeff Ferguson, and my co-host, Irv Schleufer. Irv's joining us once again, sitting in for Margot, and we are back. It's another great day to be Indigenous, and we're covering news and events for 11 tribes of the Inland Northwest on a local, regional, and national level. We are rapidly approaching 500 subscribers on our YouTube channel, and so we would like to invite you to join us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 a.m. to 8:30 right here on YouTube, Inland Northwest Native News. If you like, subscribe, and hit the little bell. It'll send you a reminder every time we have a morning show coming up or any other content for our YouTube channel. So, yeah, with that being said, welcome, Irv. It's good to have you back.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are things going in Irvland?
Pretty good. I won't be here Wednesday. I got a dentist appointment, so it's everything's been on hold for the last year, so it's time to start maintaining stuff.
You mean you're gonna leave me flying solo?
You're on your own. I'm gonna be in the dentist chair.
All right. Well, then you'll be back on Friday.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll have you back on Friday. It's good to have you. I appreciate you coming out, making the time. It's good to hear your perspective. You have a lot of experience in things that I know nothing about. And so it's that's kind of a good contrast, I think, for our audience here. Yeah, so we have some pretty good stories here, but starting things right off, we have a real quick shout out. We had one of our native basketball players, a gal that we want to do a quick shout out to, if I can find it. It's in here. I think it's right here. Oh yeah, here it is. Jacinta Buckley. All right, Jacinta Buckley is committed to Eastern Washington University. That is a cool thing. We just wanted a quick shout out, say congratulations, Yvette. We know you're sure proud of her, and we're going to be keeping an eye on Jacinta, see what's going on there. So we have quite a bit to cover today. Speaking of Eastern Washington University, they have a job announcement, and so we will let you know a little bit about this. This is a Director of Tribal Relations position. It is a managerial position. It is administrative. The salary information is from $55,000 to $75,000. The anticipated start date is to be determined. If you are interested, you can contact Vera, I think I'm saying that right, Vera Conrath. It's V Conrath, that's VCONRATH at EWU.edu. So I know this position. This is a tribal liaison position for the president of Eastern Washington University, working in the president's office. So you'd be working on some really cool projects. I worked with the former liaison out there, Nicole Vaughn was out there for a while, and she helped with the Lucy Covington project. We're raising funds to build a longhouse dedicated to Colville tribal elder Lucy Covington, and so you will more than likely end up working on that, which is part of what you'd be doing with it. It's not totally what you would be doing. You do be doing all the other tribal stuff out there too. So anyhow, it's a good position, pretty decent starting pay, and you can contact directly through the link that we're going to leave in the comment section below. So keep things moving along. We do have some more job announcements, and then we're just going to do these real quickly because we don't necessarily get the opportunity. These guys out here at Quatucknuck, if you've never been up there, it's a beautiful resort. The Quatucknuck is one of the S&K Gaming LLC facilities. This is just inside of British Columbia. It's a beautiful facility, and they have all sorts of jobs up there that they're trying to fill. They're looking for a group sales manager, a security drop lead, a front desk attendant, a bartender, a general manager, dual slot or a dual rate slot supervisor and slot attendant, dining attendant, count room attendant, a cashier, and another bartender position. So if you're interested in those, you can go to quatucknuck.com/careers. That's KWATAQNUK.com. And again, we'll leave the link to those in the comment section below. So to keep things moving along, we have a story here on 5 tribes that are working on, let's see if we can put this up. Here it is. All right, so we have 5 tribes. This one coming out of Tribal Business News. 5 Nevada tribes flex sovereignty, collaborate to regulate own cannabis operations. So this is something that Indian country has kind of been struggling with to get a good grip on. This gal here I know is involved with this. I'll read a little bit about this. But it's kind of an extensive story, but I just thought we'd talk a little bit about it. Nevada-based Tribal Cannabis Consultants has helped 5 Native American tribes in the state to enter the cannabis industry. TCC has assisted the Lovelock Paiute, the Winnemucca, the Walker River Paiute, and the Yerington Paiute and Eli Shoshone tribes in establishing dispensaries and, in some cases, cultivation and production facilities. The company also has helped pave the way for the nonprofit Intertribal Marijuana Commission, an oversight agency for Nevada's Tribal Marijuana Enforcement Division. Between Tribal Cannabis Consultants and the Intertribal Marijuana Commission, the involved tribes have built a self-regulating cannabis industry already paying dividends for each of its members. So, it's something that's really new to Indian country as far as regulating it, and this is, I think, a step in the right direction. They're doing this in Nevada, and Nevada has already, it's been home of the Sin City. So it's not really too far off the beaten path for them. I think it's some of the more conservative areas, like some of the tribes back east and in New England, they might have some opposition towards this. But with the movement of marijuana in the United States today, it's hard to say who's going to oppose it and who's not, because they're talking about making it federally regulated, legalizing it on a national level. What do you think, Irv?
I was just thinking, to start with, to have job announcements when I was a kid, we just never heard of it. But I can't help but think that, even if Idaho was totally legal, that there would be some kind of an issue about the reservation and being able to take it off there. Mm-hmm. Just the way things go. Mm-hmm. I haven't been following this, but I always expect somebody to throw a monkey wrench into the gears.
Well, I read an article about right after Washington had legalized it, within the first year or two, there was a small town. I don't remember what small town, if it was Wallace. It was one of these small towns along I-90 in Idaho that went from having like 23 arrests annually in their little jail to like 1,100 people. So it was inundating their judicial system there. It is inundating, the courts, and the jail got overloaded because all these people were coming to Washington to buy it, taking it out I-90 and headed towards New York or headed towards Minnesota, or wherever they were going. And so I can see how this can be a problem going on and off the reservation. It's hard to say what's going to happen. Right now, it would give tribes a competitive edge. But if they open it up and legalize it, they might have a lot of competition on their hands. So it might be a lot of efforts for no. We'll have to see. What do you think?
I was really I was really surprised when I first heard about people coming all the way over here and then exporting mass amounts of it to New York. I was like, really? But it's already all packaged.
Yeah.
You don't have to go into some alley and make a deal. Who knows? I'm sure there's going to be a lot of fighting somewhere down the road. But I right now, I don't know if are there any grow operations on any reservations in Washington State that you know of?
Not that I've heard of. I've heard of tribes moving into hemp, but not specifically marijuana production as far as the recreational use. One of the things that tribes are opposed to is the mass amount of electricity it takes for an indoor growing operation. So, and when you look on a bigger scale, recreational use marijuana is one of, if not the largest energy consumption recreational industry that we have, because it sucks up so much juice. You have to pump in the water, you have to keep it warm, you have to light it, and it has to go like 24 hours a day. And so it takes up a tremendous amount of energy for recreational use. And so tribes that are trying to be eco-friendly, that are on the conservative side, have struggled with trying to get into that because they don't feel that's a good ethical use. They don't want to. Marijuana is considered an entry drug, a gateway drug. And so they don't want to, it's a combination of a few things. I haven't seen any in Washington. So to answer your question, Irv, no.
Well, I know a guy that works in one of the bigger operations around town, and he said there's something like 500 people there or something like that. And most of them are all like in their 20s. and the company gives them free product. I don't know if it's weekly or whatever, but I was trying to imagine what that would be like, having that many young people, pot smokers, to work with.
Oh yeah.
You know, and to what I used to do in industry, you know, being a welder, and you know, that's as dangerous as it is. But of course, you're not going to have that condition. But I couldn't imagine what that would be like, being around that many young people doing that at work, and then having the employer giving them pot. I mean, that's just so far out of, you know. When I was in high school, one of the kids, things got really kind of crazy in my hometown. But this guy, for driver's ed, wrote a paper for extra credit on what it was like to drive when you're stoned, and he turned it in to the driver's ed teacher, and the teacher read it to the class. You know, and that was back in the mid '70s. We're all sitting there with our mouths hanging open. But you know, you look at it back then. Now you look at it now today. You know, I mean, they're talking about expunging all these records for people that went to prison for having an ounce of weed, you know, and trying to get people, you know, so that they can actually have jobs and they're not convicted felons and stuff. It's a huge can of worms. It's who knows what's going to come out of it. We're going to sit back and watch it, but of course, there's going to be a lot of money going into it too.
Yeah, it's usually always about the money.
Yeah, whoever our elected people are, you know, that's. So, some of them are going to exercise some common sense, and some are going to look at how much they can line their pockets, and we'll see how that goes.
We'll see. If this administration, I'd be surprised if it didn't pass federally sometime within the next 4 years. So anyhow, we better keep moving. We're already about 13 minutes in. So we have a story here, and I know you compiled these, so we're going to go straight to our COVID numbers. So you are looking at a graph from Johns Hopkins University that's been telling us a bunch of different things. So this one is talking with us about, I know I have this other one here. So you look here, the United States tops the list. I'm going to go to the numbers here real quick, and we're basing this off of the population. The China's on there, India's on there. You look how far down the United States is compared to what all these other countries are, and our COVID numbers are these. In China, there's a population of 1.4 billion people with 101,000 infections. India is 1.38, almost 1.4 billion people, and their infection rate is 11 million, when the United States is 331 million people at 29 million. That's 293 times the infection rate of China, or I think that's probably 2 point.
There's 2.5 times the infection of
India.
Yeah. So
average infections during the last month between 55 and 65K per day. And I'll go ahead and bring back up this one so you can see the infection rate. Look at that.
The U.S. has like 3 times the infections of the next highest infection rate of any other country in the world. I mean, so we're 3 times as good as it being bad at this.
And so that we talked a little bit about that before the show started, and one of the problems with that, obviously, other countries don't have the resources to do all the testing. They can't just go out like we can. Like we tried to do or whatever. You know, we're supposed to be the greatest country on earth. And yeah, there's a lot of things that we do well, but there's a lot of countries that are way ahead of us on, controlling this thing.
Yeah, and it's the next one on there is a third less than what we are, and then it gets smaller all up to every country in the world.
Yeah,
I mean, there isn't any other country in the world that's even close to us, and they're not all third world countries.
And to that note, like I mentioned to you, I have a friend in Tanzania who told me that the Tanzanian government isn't even testing people. They are denying that the COVID virus even exists and aren't even making arrangements to get the vaccination out to their people. So we have this huge gap between what's happening with all of our numbers, like here in the U.S. and other countries that are not really, they don't have the resources for one to be able to keep up with it, and it's just it's a mess. It really
Boris
is.
Johnson of the UK, I mean, he thought it was, basically a big hoax, and he nearly died.
Yeah.
So it kind of changed his tune. So maybe that's the fix, is to make sure the leaders of these countries are the first ones to get sick.
Yeah. Well, it's so many different things, so many different people. It's taken lives. It's spared people. There's people that never ended up with any symptoms and been, surrounded by people that were sick. And it's just, I don't think we know enough about this yet. And the variants, they're putting Italy back into lockdown. That's a big thing too. So we're gonna have to keep an eye on that. But I appreciate you compiling these numbers for us, because it still clearly has not gone away.
It's something.
I know over the weekend, Miami Beach, the mayor of Miami Beach said that. Did you see that? Miami Beach's mayor, he instilled, or he, I shouldn't say instilled, he started and tried to enforce an 8 p.m. Curfew because of all of the spring breakers that were down there. And actually, they brought out crowd control. They brought out riot police because people were not adhering to the COVID lockdown, the curfew. And so they had to go and clear the streets. And it's just like no masks. And how do we ever get this thing under control? I don't know. We're gonna have to see. I think
some of the mayors are saying don't come here, and the governor is saying it's open.
Yeah, it's hard, because they're conflict of interest. Governors want to see the money for their state. City want to protect their people. Where's the balance? It's different everywhere. Even between here and Idaho, it's different. And there's just
everybody who voted against the stimulus to help the country recover and the infection rate and like that, they can't take credit for any of the gains that happened from the day that vote happened. So we'll keep an eye on that too, and if they do, we need to call their offices and why are you taking credit for something you voted against?
Yeah, that's a good point. So you bring up a good thing, a good point. When we start talking, people are like, well, how are we ever going to pay back this money that is for the stimulus? And so we have I've heard two really, they're both really good arguments, really. People are like, we can't afford to do this. The government keeps spending, and all these people aren't going back to work because now they have unemployment, and the government keeps giving them all this free money. Why would they go back to work? And so entry-level positions for companies are having a hard time getting them filled. And on the other side of that, we have people that can't provide for themselves. We have people that don't have the ability to get their bills paid and are going into debt and getting evictions and all of these different things that are going on. So there's arguments for both sides. But the bottom line is if we don't put money into our economy, we're going to end up in a recession and end up back in a depression, because we have to have money to keep our businesses open. We have to have money going circulated through our economy to collect more taxes. There's all these different things that are going to keep us out of a recession and keep us out of a depression. And we can't do that by not spending any money. We have to have that money circulating. So
I couldn't imagine being in some big huge city like New York or Chicago or LA and having this high unemployment rate, and then the infection running rampant too. And where are these people going to get $2 together? I mean, it's impossible for them to go out and grow a garden or anything. I mean, you're stuck in the middle of a big huge city. What are you going to do?
Yeah, and even so many people are so far behind on rent already. They're 3 months, 6 months behind on rent, and the landlords are going broke because they're going to lose their buildings. We're not just evictions, but repossessions, bankruptcies, foreclosures. All those things are a byproduct of this epidemic, and it's not over yet. Our economy, it's coming back, but we're going to have to see. It's interesting. We never had to go through anything like this. So
yeah, it's hard to gauge it from Spokane because, we got problems, but
Yeah, well, we're kind of in our own little bubble out here. Seattle has had they're talking about the cost of groceries going up over there. Well, if you raise your minimum wage to $20 an hour, the price of a loaf of bread's gonna be $15 or whatever. A gallon of milk's gonna be $8. You can't do that and then jack up all of your living costs. A 2-bedroom apartment over there next to the university. An average 2-bedroom, not even a real high-end one. You're talking $2,500, $3,000 a month. how can you pay that on minimum wage? How can you raise a family in that? How can you afford to do that? It's crazy. And then we look at here, and our living costs are about a third as far as rent goes.
You know, if you go onto the AFL CEO Pay Watch, the union, you know, I'm sure through having stock and stuff, it's all public information, but they compile all this information on the wages and bonuses of the CEOs of these corporations. And so one side, they're saying, well, if we give them $15 an hour, we're going to have to lay people off, stuff like that. Then when you look at that same company, this guy is getting hundreds of millions of dollars a year in bonuses.
Yep.
You know, so I mean, one person. So I mean, we can afford to do that, but we can't give you $15 an hour, so you can still starve.
Yeah, and it's like, and then if you turn around the other end of that and you look at countries like China, where they've artificially deflated their money to where everything was so cheap. I remember when I was in Shanghai, we took a cab all the way across downtown, and it was $3. I was like, wow, and then you try and tip them, and they give you the tip back, and it's like, wow, that's crazy. $3 for a cab. You can't get an Uber across the street for $3. Give me a break. So we have all of this in between there, and it's going to be interesting to see how this all pans out and how we end up. You know, airlines going out of business. We have Boeing's really struggling. We have just all of these different factors involved in what's happening to our economy. And it's just, you can see that wealth gap getting, you know, the richer are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer.
Yeah, and the richer pump that money into elected people that support their system and to keep the minimum wage where it is rather than raising that. Mm-hmm. And so they just keep getting richer. So those two entities feed off each other while the bulk of the people still suffer from it. I mean, that's just one thing.
Yeah. So anyhow, we better keep moving along. We have a story here, and I almost skipped it. I didn't want to skip this one. This is cool. This is really cool. Oregon teen sets sights on becoming first female to compete in professional bull riders elite circuit. This is really cool. I saw this gal, Najia Knight is her name, and I hope I'm saying that right. And the article goes on to state, so this particular photo came out of Vogue. This was on Vogue.com. 13-year-old Indian gal ends up on Vogue.com. I was just really, this article, I'm gonna share with you just a small portion of it, and I highly recommend that you get on there because there's a video on there, and she talks. It's a good interview, and this one comes out of the Oregonian, I believe. Najia Knight, who aims to join their ranks, all 4'10" and 70 pounds of her. Najia, a Native American of Paiute and Klamath ancestry, who hails from tiny Arlington, Oregon. She breaks barriers for female rodeo athletes. 14-year-old Najia Knight is friendly, outgoing, and responds to questions with "yes, ma'am," as reflectively as most adolescents roll their eyes. But those aren't the only qualities that make the poised, polite teen unique. This 80-pound daredevil rides 800-pound mini bulls because it's so much fun. That's what she says. That's a quote. So much fun.
I can't imagine someone that little on one of those bulls. That's just crazy.
Oh yeah, it's funny because it's been so good for her. She is really flexible. She hasn't. From the article, she says she hasn't broken a bone yet, and she's not only going to be the first female in the PBR, but she'll also be the first. Well, she ended up with modeling contracts off this too.
Really?
Yeah, she ended up with modeling contract. Well, she was in Vogue.
Well, is she going to be selling cowboy hats and boots too?
I wouldn't doubt it. I can't blame her. She's going to give it a whirl. You may as well. What do they say? If you're going to go swimming, or if you're going to get wet, you may as well go swimming. So if she's got an opportunity to make a little bit of coin while she's doing it, that could help pay for her college or whatever. That's kind of cool. But I highly recommend you check this out. We'll leave the link in the comments section below. I wish we had more time because I wanted to run the video, but the video is about 10 minutes long in itself. But I highly recommend it. It's a great story. It's done really well. So moving right along, we have the story of, believe it or not, a pipeline on a Native American reservation. No, it's not on there. Well, not yet. Tribes defend Minnesota waterways from dangerous Line 3 pipeline. Representing the Red Land Band of Chippewa Indians, the White Earth Band of Ojibwe honor the Earth and Sierra Club. Earth Justice is fighting the pipeline in federal court. This by Emily Sorusco, March 19th, out of earthjustice.com. So I got another image here. I got a couple of them off of this story. These guys did a real good job as far as providing imagery. Here's a photo of Winona LeDuc. She taps a maple tree near Enbridge, line 3, during the winter, or during, gosh, I can't read that. Our monitor is blocking that. So anyhow, it's Winona LeDuc out there tapping the tree for maple. For the Anishinaabe people of northern Minnesota, spring begins with hammering taps into the leathery bark of the sugar maple trees that blanket the region. Next comes Sugar Camp, where close-knit communities come together for the first time after the long, cold winter to harvest and produce the maple syrup that has been a dietary staple for centuries. This year, however, spring signals a different purpose for some Anishinaabe. Nearly 200 water protectors came together to tap trees, participate in round of snow snaking and snow snaking. Not sure what snow snaking is. It's a round of snow snaking and mobilize against the proposed construction of the massive, dangerous oil pipeline called Line 3. The early March gathering continued the water protectors' 7-year effort to stop Line 3 from being built in the heart of the territory where Anishinaabe retained the right to hunt, fish, and harvest wild rice under the 1855 treaty. They called for thousands more water protectors to follow migrating trumpeter swans and journey north and help them to defeat Line 3. We've been living here for 10,000 years, drinking the same water, tapping in sugar from the same trees for maple syrup, harvesting our wild rice, said Winona LeDuc, executive director of Honor the Earth and member of the White Earth Band of Ojibwe. During a recent rally to organize opposition to the pipeline. It's our most sacred place. The Line 3 pipeline, proposed by Canadian oil giant Enbridge to carry 790,000 barrels of tar sands oil per day, has been under construction since December, when Enbridge began removing vegetation, including mature trees, and digging trenches through wetlands and waterlands, damaging land, water, and ecosystems that are part of the Anishinaabe heritage and key to their survival. The new pipeline path would cut directly through areas with some of the highest quality wild rice stands in Minnesota. So they've been there for 10,000 years. They've got a treaty, and we've got Enbridge. We got Line 3 going through, and they're out there trying to stop it. Winona LeDuc and a bunch of other water protectors. So they had some good imagery here. I thought we'd share that with you. And I'm going to whip through this because, again, we are moving right along. So right up, this gal, looking them in the eye, getting for them to understand, their homelands, and they're tearing up their homelands all over again. Aside from the man camps and aside from the endangering the waters and so forth. What do you think, Irv?
I don't know if this is any different than the other pipelines I read about, but as far as I know, everything is either going up to Vancouver or they're trying to use the XL, and everything's going to China. So they're anything that comes through the U.S., we're risking our environment for something that's not even going to benefit us. I mean, our gas prices are not going down, and so this is their own country, and here's China is going to end up with the bulk of some of the most dirty oil out there, while we're still working on trying to cut those emissions and stop global warming. It's it's the same old thing. I mean, they're pulling from both ends, and that's pretty much the legacy of how everything has gone. They just destroy everything. And I can look up on the coast where I grew up. That used to be pristine in some of those places. Now it's nothing but housing projects, and it's it's pretty sad. They got enough money to come in there and rape and pillage, and then what's left? They say, oh, it's going to be okay, and then they have a spill, and they go, oops, well, we'll pass the line and just keep doing it. And
I'll have to try to dig that up, because when we were in Standing Rock back in November of 2016, there was a guy, there was a documentary filmmaker there that was screening his films inside the big golf ball dome.
The guy, he got cancer or something.
Did he get cancer?
Yeah, he had all kinds of health problems. I don't know if he had cancer, but I think he did.
So he was going around and filming all of these cleanup sites and showing how on the surface it looked like it was clean, but when you actually got down in there, it wasn't clean.
Just all tar balls and globs of oil.
Yeah,
It solidifies.
It was really gross. Yeah, and so it's these kind of things that we're trying to avoid. As just part of it. That's just a part of a byproduct of the pipelines. And so we'll see if we can dig that up. I think it's been a little while. I forgot about that, but that guy did a really good job on that film because he went to a lot of different places and showed over and over and over again how they're supposed to be cleaning this stuff up, and it doesn't get clean.
We were in that dome and we watched that video, and it was shocking to see. He was talking about the health problems that he has gotten throughout the years, and yeah, that was that one spot looked like a pristine, nice little creek.
Mm-hmm.
Then he got down there and stirred it up with a shovel or a fork or something like that, and you can see all those globs coming up. And
yeah, it's just nasty, and it's there, and it's it doesn't clean itself up.
Well, that's like the Exxon up there in Alaska, that oil spill. They said, yeah, they're going to go out there and have people clean the rocks and all this kind of stuff. But that stuff that melds in with the sand and all that kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
it turns into like asphalt.
Mm.
So when you go up there and see the beach, the rocks look clean and stuff, but you dig down in there and you've got this among your shellfish and all that. And how do you get that out of there? I mean, it's so cold up there, it would take 1,000,000 years for it to evaporate.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to keep an eye on that. I know they're still they're not going anywhere. They're going to be up there protesting this thing all the way to the end till we can figure out what's going on. We'll see if this administration hops back on board and starts to support more of the environmental stuff, like their platform said. So we'll see. And unfortunately, this is a Canadian entity and it's in Canada, so we can support it, but there's not. There's only so much we can do because it is in another country. So anyhow, moving right along, our final story that we have today, Yvette Harrell, first Native GOP woman elected to the House. This is really cool. Harrell describes herself as a pro-God, pro-business, pro-life, pro-gun conservative. So this is coming out of Cherokee Nation, March 19th, and writes, another citizen of the Cherokee Nation is now seated in the U.S. House of Representatives. Yvette Harrell, a Republican, was elected to the House. Mexico's 2nd District, from New Mexico's 2nd District, and joins fellow Cherokee Nation citizen representative Mark Wynn Mullen, a Republican out of Oklahoma, in the chamber. They are among 5 Native Americans serving in the House, the most in U.S. history. The number could drop to 4. Representative Deb Haaland out of New Mexico was immersed in her Senate confirmation hearing as President Joe Biden's nominee as Interior Secretary as of the publication. Harrell will also join Mullen on the same side of the aisle with Republican Tom Cole from Oklahoma. Harrell describes herself as a pro-God, pro-business, pro-life, pro-gun conservative, and she holds a seat on the House Committee on Natural Resources and Oversight and Reform. She said her Cherokee heritage has been an influence on her perspectives and decisions. It's always been a part of me and has given me respect. She has given me respect and appreciation for the vast diversity we have as Americans. Harrell is the first Native American Republican to be elected to Congress and the 3rd Native woman in U.S. history. So you had sent this to me.
I just found it yesterday.
And I thought it was kind of an interesting perspective to hear a Republican side from some of these issues. I'm not familiar with her. It says to win her seat, Harrell had to run twice. Her 2018 loss in the general election to Torres Small was less than 4,000 votes with nearly 200,000 cast, with absentee ballots proving decision. Harrell had an 8% advantage in 2020, balloting 54% to 46%. So it was pretty close on both of those, but she's in there now. And what were you thinking when you first saw this? What was your perspective?
I wasn't really totally sure. I think we're just going to have to kind of wait and see. There wasn't enough information there. I don't know if she's along with the same bunch that's anti-mask and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I'm curious where she is on that kind of stuff. I don't know that how she's going to vote when it comes to things. You know, like would have she been for or against the stimulus? You know, that kind of stuff. So I just saw it yesterday, and I really don't know enough about it to really comment about it. But I'd be curious to watch her and see, you know, what's going on.
Well, it will be interesting to see. I've heard it over and over again from tribal leaders that we, as tribal people, because we're such a minority, in so many issues, we have to be able to reach across the aisle. And we have somebody in the House now that's a Native woman that's elected into that position, and we're going to have to watch to see if she's willing to reach across the aisle. And the same with Deb Haaland, same with everybody, you know, because there are so many, so much division in the parties. It can make things extremely difficult. But I think in order to move forward, we all have to be able to work together. And so
you're going to have to compromise, which means sometimes there's going to be some decisions that's going to make us grit our teeth because, well, you know, we think, well, you're Indian, you should vote for us all the time, and we actually need some of that. But you know, we're going to have to bite the bullet sometimes. And
well, it's a matter of, you know, either way, whether they're leaning left or leaning right. If somebody in power leans too far left without being checked, without having somebody, you know, bring up their opposition, it's what helps to hold each other accountable. Yeah. Otherwise, everything goes all left or everything goes all the way right, and it's how it balances the power.
We just had 4 years of free for all, and take a look at the infection rates. I mean, just as one thing, you know, how that messed up the country. So it's a step in the right direction. Like I said, we'll keep an eye on it. And I don't know if you're going to show the picture of the
oh yeah,
they're at the protest.
Yeah, I forgot. We had over the weekend. Oh, we had this. Was this on Saturday?
Yes.
So on Saturday we had a protest.
Stop the Asian hate.
Stop the Asian hate down at Riverfront Park, and Irv went down. And did you get some shots for your res pics? Did you do?
Yeah, there's an album on there. There's like 120 pictures.
Yeah.
I've had probably 1,200 picture views on there. But I was walking around, you know, looking for something to shoot at, and I walked right. I was this close to this guy, and I turned around and looked, and he's got an assault rifle, you know, and with those dark clothes and him holding that rifle at an angle like that. I have no idea how many times I looked at him before I realized, you know, he's got an assault rifle. But he looked to be part of the Asian community, and he wasn't, you know, some racist or something. It looked like he was actually there to help protect the people. And there was about 8 or 10 police, you know, they were divided up on both sides, and there was about a dozen speakers there. They had a lot of the Asian community. Someone from the gay community. Brian Biggs was there, but there was nobody representing.
What about Kathy McMorris Rogers? Did she show up?
Not a word. No, you know, she didn't send a representative there. Nothing.
How long has she been a representative here?
19 years.
19 years? Wow. And so you'd think she'd come out a little bit.
Well, you know, they were all talking about, the speakers are talking about the fear that they have, you know, because this has been going a long time, and especially with Trump coming into office, and one of the speakers, I think her name was Tia, she's from Eastern, she was not only talking about the fear of going out in public, but going to school.
Wow.
Here's a young person, you know, early 20s, you know, going to college, trying to get her education, you know, trying to live a good life and do the right thing, but she's got to look over her shoulder, yeah, you know, they talked about being spit on and that kind of thing, and of course the other stuff that's been happening in the news. And I was down there about 2.5 hours, and I'm just getting kind of old and things were aching. And
Well, what about Nadine? Did we have our mayor show up to that?
No,
our mayor didn't show up.
Our mayor wasn't there.
Wow.
Brian Biggs was the only elected person I saw there. So I don't know what's going on with that. The bulk of the people there looked all brown-skinned people. You know, it's kind of hard. They were asked to wear black, so here's a sea of people wearing black clothes, you know, wearing masks, you know, with brown skin, you know, and I'm back at a distance. So I couldn't tell if there were people from the Native community there or not. I didn't see anybody I knew. But it looked to me like the bulk of what I saw was the Asian community. There was a few white people there and a few black people. But there was at least 300 people there. The newspaper said 200, but I was kind of eyeballing, looking at the crowd, and there had to have been a minimum of 300 there.
Wow, that's a pretty good turnout.
Yeah, that is, and it's really sad that our representative, she probably would have gotten, personally attacked, because she's been such a Trump supporter. I mean, last year when he gave the State of the Union, you could see her there in the audience chanting 4 more years, and this is after years of his hate and racism, and he's even been convicted in court for discrimination, and to have her supporting him, and then come out to stand there and tell this group that's been so horribly treated and discriminated against and threatened and killed, and I feel your pain.
Yeah.
Well, no, you don't. You're part of the problem.
Yeah.
You can't take sides with the other side, and then so in the long run, maybe it was better that she wasn't there. But we really need somebody in office that when something like this happens, they can be the first one up to the microphone saying that this is what I'm doing. We're going to try to put a stop to this rather than just total silence.
Yeah. Well, the silence is deafening, I guess they say. So anyhow, I think we're about out of time. We appreciate you sharing that with us. I'm going to show it one more time. I know you said you have an album up on your ResPix site.
Yep.
So it's ResPix, and we'll leave a link to that in the comment section below.
Yeah.
So yeah, be sure to check that out. I'm sure you got quite a few good shots in there. So
Yeah.
So thanks again, once again, for joining us. I'm going to see if I can get this done. I hope I can. Anyhow, we are about out of here, and we will see you. I'll see you on Friday, but we'll see you on Wednesday. So thank you once again for joining us. Inland Northwest Native News, She'uhoi.